Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lancaster University Ghana's EMBA Open Evening. Our EMBA Open Evening is an information session for prospective students, parents, corporates, an opportunity for them to ask questions about EMBA. It's 5:33 p.m. and we are 3 minutes behind time, so I'm going to go ahead. Again, welcome everybody, and we are happy that you find the time to be able to be with us for this session. I have three panel members in the name of Professor Malcolm McIver, who is our provost for Lancaster University, Ghana. We have Mr. Dan Atkins, who is the TAG, that is Transnational Academic Group, CEO. And then we have our provost, Professor Cynthia Forsen, who is the head for the EMBA program, who are going to present to us about our EMBA, business continuity, and then an introduction to Lancaster University, Ghana. Without further ado, I'd like to say that if you have any questions for this session, kindly send it to us in our Q&A section. If at the end of the program, each one of them are going to answer the questions that you have for them. Without further ado, and then wasting much time, I would like to introduce Malcolm McIver, who is the provost for Lancaster University, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henrietta. Good evening and welcome to Lancaster University Ghana's Executive MBA Open Evening. As Henrietta said, I am Professor Malcolm McIver, and I have the honour and the privilege to be the provost of the university. Shortly, you will hear from Dan Atkins, the Group CEO of TAG, Professor Cynthia Forsen from Lancaster University, and Linda, one of our former students. But before then, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the university. For those of you who may not be familiar with Lancaster University Ghana, we are a part of the Transnational Academic Group, who, who in partnership with the UK's Lancaster University, delivers British degrees on our campus in Ghana. Transnational Academic Group, or TAG as it's known, also have a university in Dubai, and is part of a multinational group whose interests include well-known companies such as CNBC Africa, TechOne Global, and Forbes. Over the last decade, TAG has successfully delivered programs in academic partnerships with some of the world's top-ranked institutions, with more than 2,000 students successfully graduating from its universities in Africa and the Middle East. A large part of that success is because we choose our partners carefully. Lancaster University is one of the top universities in the UK, consistently in the top 10 in all three main league tables. Lancaster also has a TEF Excellence Gold rating for teaching, which is the highest rating any university can get in the UK. Lancaster is also highly ranked in international league tables, such as the QS World Ranking, named the UK University of the Year in 2018 and the International University of the Year 2020 by the Times and the Sunday Times Good University Guide. So you can see, if you study with Lancaster University Ghana, then you graduate with a British degree from a top university, a degree that is recognised and valued around the world. Now, in the past, I would have spoken to you in a five-star hotel. Events like this would have been put on in some really grand venue, and I would be standing in front of you giving you this talk. But COVID-19 has changed all of that. Very few industries or businesses have been able to avoid the impact of the pandemic, and some companies, unfortunately, even having to downsize. Individuals have also had to take stock of their personal circumstances, and I suspect maybe even some of you are wondering if now is the right time to be spending money on education. The reality is that right now is the perfect time to invest in education. A recent study showed that successful companies are changing the way in which they do business as a result of COVID-19. And in doing so, they are also realigning the skill sets of their employees. Successful companies, now more than ever, need staff who are critical thinkers, problem solvers, innovators, team builders and team leaders who are flexible and adaptable. And these are exactly the skills that are developed and nurtured on our executive MBA. Now, I mentioned earlier on about industries suffering under COVID-19, and undoubtedly, education is one of those industries that is feeling the impact of the COVID-19 restrictions. I'm also equally sure that some of you may be wondering how you will be able to study with us in the event that those restrictions on movements and gatherings continue to be applied. Again, the truth is, as with any industry, those universities that have been most successful in responding to the pandemic are those that have been most flexible and creative in meeting the needs of their students. Here at Lancaster University, Ghana, we place the needs of the student at the centre of everything that we do. Every student has a Moodle account, and that enables them to not only access live streaming lectures, but also to download the subsequent podcasts of those lectures anytime they want and to revisit them time and time again at a time of their convenience. And with online access to the University of Lancaster's extensive library, it means students can pretty much study whenever it is convenient for them at a time that is convenient for them. We do have timetabled activities, and Professor Forson will tell you more about those shortly, but much of what we do can also be accessed online. Our executive MBA is designed to enable you to study at a time that is convenient for you, even in the face of a pandemic. Now, my slot was only for 5 minutes. The more important people, the ones who are more relevant to the MBA, will be speaking to you shortly. So I'm sure you've heard quite enough from me. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Dan Adkins, the group's CEO of Transnational Academic Group. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. Really enjoyed hearing from you about Lancaster University in Ghana, and I'm very happy to have the privilege of addressing all of you to give you an extremely condensed version of how to have business continuity in the time of COVID-19. Now, as I present to you, it is from a position of someone who has done this throughout his career. Prior to joining the Academy 13 years ago, I spent 20 years in the IT industry, and part of what I did in that industry was risk management, disaster recovery, and business continuity. So as I'm sharing with you, it's from the perspective of someone who has done this first in the IT industry and now does it in the educational industry. So let's start with COVID-19. We all understand that COVID-19 is a worldwide pandemic affecting nearly every country on Earth, most of them severely. If you look at this data from just 2 days ago, you can see the massive number of cases across nearly every country in the world. And let's look at some of the impacts that we are seeing from that. So what are we living with? Well, we are living with things like lockdowns, non-essential businesses being closed, having to wear a mask everywhere, and of course, travel restrictions. And this has led to effects like the unemployment rate in many countries of the world rising at the fastest rate since the Great Depression. It's leading to business bankruptcies. Even big brands and major businesses are going bankrupt at a rate more than twice what they had previously. Of course, personal bankruptcies are also rising, and they are too rising at the fastest pace since the Great Depression of 1929. And consumer confidence went right off the cliff. It had the biggest 1-month drop since the beginning of when it was measured. Nothing like this has ever happened before. So this leaves us with the question that as a business, we have to understand in order to properly plan. And that is, how long will this pandemic last? And it all comes down to a concept that you've probably heard about on the news or heard people talking about, but probably don't actually have a very good understanding of. And it's the concept of herd immunity. Like any pandemic, when this pandemic started, essentially no one was immune to COVID-19, so the virus was able to spread very rapidly. The rate of spread scientists call the R naught, and for COVID-19, that rate is 2 to 3 times as fast as the flu or the common cold that we're used to dealing with. Normally, when someone has a virus, they generally become immune to that same virus for most or all of their lives. However, this does not seem to be the case for coronaviruses. Of the 7 known coronaviruses that can infect humans, 4 of them have been shown historically to only give 1 or 2 years worth of immunity. 2 of them, SARS and MERS, were so deadly that the virus died out in the community before the length of immunity could be determined. And the last, COVID-19, has already seen people who had fully recovered and tested clear, later testing as positive again. At this point, we don't know whether that's a testing error or if the human body is unable to create a sustained immune response, especially if the first infection proved mild. But just this week, a scientific study did come out that at least showed that those who test positive again are not infectious to others, which keeps the rate of spread down. Another scientific study released this week did show that the vaccines currently under trial do appear to give a lasting immune response. Now, the concept of herd immunity, when enough people have either had the virus and become immune, or have had a vaccine and are therefore immune, the virus can no longer spread and it dies out because there are not enough people who can catch it to build a transmission network. If a person is infected, it's unlikely they will run into a person who does not already have immunity and be able to pass the virus along. This is why right now, before herd immunity, you're hearing so much talk about contact tracing, because the goal with contact tracing is to say, who did an infected person talk to, and how can we quarantine those people so that we can stop the spread? Given the spread rate of this virus, without a vaccine, we're likely to be looking at a situation like the 1918 flu pandemic, which lasted about 2 years. This could possibly go a bit longer if the natural immunity isn't lasting and people end up getting reinfected. Now, if one of the 8 vaccines currently in clinical trials is successful, it will take about another 2 years to get enough people vaccinated so that the virus can't spread. I hope you notice that 2 years is the best case in either scenario, and some very credible experts are putting the end of the pandemic 3 years out. During that time, we're likely to have rounds of lockdown, followed by periods of freer movement going back and forth to control the rate of infection and prevent the medical system from being overwhelmed. Germany, China, and South Korea are good examples. Each of those countries had a lockdown for 2 or maybe 3 months, and within 2 weeks of allowing freer movement, the infection rate started to rise very rapidly again, and they've had to re-implement lockdowns or other measures. So what are we really looking at from a business perspective? Well, we all know that McKinsey & Company is one of the world's most respected consulting firms, and they've laid out 9 scenarios for how the economy might recover. The best estimates by economic experts who are actually taking into account the projections of the pandemic experts is that the world is going to go through an economic downturn as bad or worse than the 2008 global financial crisis, and it will likely take at least 10 years after the end of the pandemic for the economy to get back to the size it was before the pandemic. something similar to what is shown in one of the charts labeled B1 through B5. Now you might notice that there are charts labeled A1 through A4. These are V recoveries. And the issue of V recoveries is historically they have only been seen in situations where the cause of the economic downturn was something that was very short, from a few days to a few weeks. Anything longer than that historically has always resulted in one of the recoveries over the longer term, as shown in the B slides. In reality, the world is never going to be the same after COVID-19. Businesses have changed, and they will continue to operate in this new normal after the end of COVID-19. So the question is, how do you keep your business alive? And that's where we start talking about business continuity. Given that we can reasonably expect the pandemic to be causing infections for the next 2 years, and that the economy may take as long as 10 years to recover, we need to do all of our business continuity assessments based on those two time frames. Now, it's said that there are 3 rules of being in business. The first rule is never run out of cash. The second rule is never run out of cash. And I bet you can guess what the third rule is: never run out of cash. That's because, like the old expression says, time is money. But the inverse is also true. If you have a great idea, but you run out of money, your time is up and your business won't survive. But if you have enough money, you can buy the time you need to fix nearly any business or survive nearly any catastrophe. So the first focus has to be cash management focused on survival. You must realistically assess what your income is going to be during the pandemic and the economic recovery, including consideration of actually being able to collect your accounts receivable. It doesn't matter if you've got a great accounts receivable book if you can't collect it. Once you know what your actual revenue collections are going to be, then you must get your operational burn rate below that. If that's not possible, you then have to calculate how long you can continue to fund the business and its excess burn with usable assets. If this calculus doesn't work out, then you have a duty to the shareholders and owners to sell or liquidate the business so as to return the maximum amount possible to those shareholders and owners. So the first calculus is brutal, but it's an important part of business continuity. Business continuity does not mean trying to keep a business going that's already dead. If there's no way it's going to survive, you kill it quickly, you get the money out of it so that the owners and shareholders can fight another day with another business. So how do you get the burn rate down? In order to do that, you cut every function and every person that is not essential to the operation of the business. You eliminate any unnecessary expenses. You give up any leased facilities and equipment that you don't absolutely have to have. You also have to work the other side of that equation and see what you can do to increase income and collections. This, along with the survival time calculation you just did, forms the core of your business assessment. You have to see what business you can conduct during the pandemic. You may have to radically adjust how you do business, but if you can find a way to keep providing the goods and services that customers need, you can sustain some revenue, even if those goods and services aren't the things that you would normally provide. And if you're really creative, you may find that you can even increase revenue. In the Middle East, where I generally work, there's a company called Fine Hygienic Holdings. Now they make facial tissue and toilet paper and things like that. And of course, we know that people have been fighting over toilet paper the world over, but that wasn't enough for them. As soon as the pandemic started, they came out with protective face masks that could be used by the general population. And these protective face masks last for a year. They're way more expensive than the disposables, but they're better for the environment. They last a year, they're convenient, and they're selling so fast, they don't even stay on the shelves. As soon as they're up, they're bought out. That's a business who figured out what is possible during the pandemic and capitalized it. When you put together your cash calculus based on what you can reduce your operational burn rate to and what you can do on the revenue and collection side, then you can determine if the business can survive the pandemic. You also need to realistically look at the business environment post-pandemic. You need to ask yourself, what is the competitive landscape going to look like? Are there people who are now competitors who are going to go out of business and enhance your ability? Are there people who, because you're in a good business that does have opportunity during the pandemic, are there people who are going to be crossing over and coming into your business? You also need to consider what demand is going to look like. Coming out of crises, people and businesses both tend to buy a lot less. That's why consumer confidence is down so far. And in doing that, they reduce the demand for goods and services across entire industries. You need to figure out if your industry is going to be impacted that way. You also need to consider whether there are going to be any positive or negative legal or regulatory issues to deal with. Given all of this, you may find that you have to take the time during the pandemic to change your business into something that does have a post-pandemic future. Now, if you have been wise in the past in how you spent and saved your money, and you're fortunate enough to be in a strong cash position, then you need to see how you can leverage the pandemic to have a stronger future. A good example of that happened during the Great Depression of 1929 in the United States. At that time, one of the most common ways to ship goods was to send them on riverboats up and down the Mississippi River. During the Great Depression, there was not a whole lot of demand, and because of that, you had businesses going out of business. One business that had been wise with their capital was able to buy up all of their riverboats, and when the economy recovered, they controlled the market. Now, beyond this calculus, you also need to assess your risk. Do you have key team members who are likely to become unable to work due to the pandemic? Do you have key suppliers that may be unable to supply you during the pandemic? Do you have any key customers that may not have need for your product or service during the pandemic, or who may go bankrupt and be unable to buy? Then you have to design and execute risk mitigation activities, prepare contingency plans for what you'll do if any of these risks become a reality. Once you have all of the planning done and are executing and monitoring it, then you need to prepare for the next crisis, because there will be one, and you don't want to be caught unprepared like you may have been for this one. And that involves developing and maintaining a robust risk matrix, developing and testing real disaster recovery plans, and developing and testing real business continuity plans. I know that I've covered all of this very quickly and haven't given you the details of how to do the things needed to achieve business continuity. That's what the Lancaster Ghana MBA is for and will do for you. So if you want to know how to help your business survive this pandemic and how to be well planned for the next crisis, make the investment in yourself and your future by joining the next EMBA cohort and being part of the 2022 graduating class. Thank you so much. And I'll now turn the stage over to Professor Cynthia, who will talk to you about the EMBA program.
Thank you, Dan. I will now, my name is Cynthia Forson, and I'm the Associate Professor and Deputy Provost at Lancaster University, Ghana. And I will talk you now through the Lancaster MBA and its features of the MBA. I hope that you can all see my screen at the moment. And if you can't, please let me know. Okay. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about the Lancaster MBA and why you probably should enroll on it, and not just enroll on it, but enroll on it in Ghana. Now, when anybody's going to look at an MBA or is thinking about an MBA, there are three main questions that you ask yourself. Why would I want to do an MBA? When? Because timing is always very important. And where? In other words, which institution should you do the MBA? And actually, these three questions can sometimes be quite confusing because there's a plethora of MBAs out there, and it's very difficult sometimes to try and decide why should you do the MBA, when should you do it, and where should you do it. So let's look a little bit at the why. For some, doing an MBA is about self-development, and these whys, I would say, is information that our alumni have given us. So people have been on the MBA in Lancaster, Ghana, and some of the questions that we've asked them, and this has come out of the survey. So self-development, some people like to study, and they like to keep studying, and that's fine, and gain several qualifications, that's fine. For some people, it's because they started out without a degree, started working, and now want a degree to legitimize their position in the organization that they work in. And for others, they've been working for years and years and years and have been doing things in a particular way and are looking for the tools and the concepts or to understand why they practice in the way that they do in organizations. For others, it's about career progression. So you're in middle management, you're looking to move into a strategic position or into a senior management role, or you've been promised a senior management role and you want to make sure that you're ready to get there or to work there. Thirdly, there are some who want to do it because they want to move out of employment into some level of independence. And so, for example, we get on our programs, we've had pharmacists and medical practitioners who are looking to set up their own clinics or their own pharmacies. Dan talked about opportunities that might come up in the environment as a result of COVID-19. Spaces will remain in areas where some businesses are folded up, and you might want to enter those spaces or those sectors. But it might also be that you're already an entrepreneur and you're looking for the skills that you need to move your business forward post-COVID. In other words, as part of the business continuity that Dan just talked about. And then there are some who are on the MBA because you're being encouraged by significant others because it's something you've always wanted to do, and they encouraging you to do because they think you can. You've had cold feet for so many years, but this other person is saying to you, look, you can do it. It's a good time to do it. The thing about significant others is that they do take up a lot of time. So they need to be considered when you're thinking about not just the why, but also the when. When should you do it? For many who come onto our MBA, they are parents, they have families. Even those who are not parents have extended families, as you would imagine. For those of you who are listening from Ghana, you have extended families that take up your time. So from a personal perspective, I have always viewed that when you want to do something, you do it regardless. So in other words, people will find time to do the things that they really do want to do. So my view is work will always be busy. Your family will always need your time. Your mother will always want you to call her. Your money, unfortunately, will never be enough, no matter how much you earn. Life will always be stressful. And for those of you who are Ghanaian on here, as an Ebusi opinion or head of the family, there will always be funerals and weddings and outdoorings and all the things that take up our time. So in some respects, there's never a good time to pursue an MBA. So, you know, the time really, in my view, is now. What about it from a professional standpoint? Now, Dan has talked about furloughs and layoffs and so on and so forth. But also, even for those who have not been laid off, the question is, what kind of skills does the post-COVID business professional need? What kind of person is the post-COVID business professional going to be? I was reading an article in Forbes magazine, and Bernard Marr argued that among a number of skills, these were going to be quite important. So adaptability and flexibility, creativity and innovation, data literacy, critical thinking, leadership, and emotional intelligence. And these are the sorts of skills that you develop on an MBA program. The ability to adapt to different scenarios, to move from one industry to another, to apply tools and concepts and ideas from insurance to banking and into education, creativity and innovation around problem solving. And the post-COVID world is going to be a world that is very different, and businesses will be looking for people who are creative and innovative to be able to help them to solve their problems and also to look into the future. Clearly, data literacy is going to be really important because a post-COVID business professional needs to be able to look at data, analyze that data, and apply it in order to be able to move businesses forward. Obviously, critical thinking, leadership, and we all know we don't have very much of that in this world at the moment, but leadership is going to be really, really important, as well as emotional intelligence, an ability to understand both your subordinates as well as your peers and your managers, but also to your customers and other stakeholders of the organization to understand what they need in a year's time or in 2 years' time, rather than in the present time. So actually, this may actually, from a professional standpoint, this may be the best time to enroll on an MBA. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Lancaster MBA, which is one of the best MBAs in the world. Lancaster, as both Malcolm and Dan have referred to, is ranked with the best. According to the Financial Times, and I'm talking about the business school and the MBA at this point. Lancaster is 11th in the UK and 91st in the world. The Financial Times ranks the Lancaster module on strategy as first in the world in the MBA, as well as their corporate social responsibility module. They're both first in the world on the MBA programs across the world. They are ranked, Lancaster is ranked 5th in the UK for value for money. And you can see all the different rankings. Forbes, 11th in the world and 4th in the UK. And if you look on the right-hand side of my screen, Lancaster University Management School is a quadruple accredited school. It's accredited by EQUIS, which is a European accreditation. The ASCSB is an American accreditation for business schools. Association of MBAs, which most of you might know, AMBA, is a UK institution. And the Small Business Charter is also a UK institution. By the way, Lancaster is only one of 4 UK institutions that have triple accreditation on the continent of Africa. And it's the only UK institution with quadruple accreditation that operates in Africa. The MBA program, we've got 2 programs. We've got the full-time MBA and the executive MBA. The full-time MBA runs in Lancaster and in London, and the executive MBA runs in Lancaster, in Malaysia, and in Ghana. Again, I want to look a little bit at the objectives of the Lancaster MBA, because I think that will be important in trying to frame why you should be doing the MBA at Lancaster as opposed to anywhere else. So the Lancaster MBA is designed to enhance the knowledge and understanding of experienced managers who are looking to move into senior roles or looking to start their own businesses. And the way we do this is to develop, help the students develop a holistic understanding of organizations so that they can think strategically about a range of complex organizational issues. In doing so, they gain a real appreciation of the risks, the ethical issues, and the complexity of a typical business environment, and develop an ability to work across different functional areas and at a strategic level. And the skills that they are able to develop as a result of this are scientific, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. And you can see how these skills map onto the skills that Bernard Ma was talking about in the Forbes magazine, about the skills that are required for the post-COVID world, and how this also maps onto the skills that are required to be able to assess your business for business continuity that Dan referred to. So what are the key features of the Lancaster MBA? We start the MBA with a mindful manager philosophy. And what do I mean by that? The mindful manager philosophy is a philosophy that engages the manager to be reflective about their practice. So the idea is to look at your practice, reflect on that practice, and question your practice all the time with the idea that you want to improve that practice as you go along. And so the Lancaster MBA involves a lot of action learning. Essentially, you're on the program, you pick up the tools and the learning from the program, you take those tools and learning into your organization in real time. You apply them, you test the tools out, you test their ideas out. Some may work, some may not work. You bring them back into the classroom, discuss it with your colleagues and your lecturers. You tweak the tools, tweak the concepts, and reapply. And this actually benefits your organization because everything is in real time. And most alumni from the Lancaster MBA will tell you that by the time they move from September when they first joined the program, by the time they get to January, February, they can already see the benefits both to the organization, but to themselves and the ways in which their practice has improved and changed. And how do we do this? We do this through a blended learning format where you have face-to-face modules where you're in the classroom on our campus in East Legon over a weekend period, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then you're supported through this blended learning process through online sessions with your lecturer, tutorials and seminars with your lecturer, but also with your peers. And then you're also supported by an academic skills office that we have on our campus in East Legon. And why do we do that? Well, senior managers usually who are going back into learning are going back having been away from academic study for quite a while. And so sometimes the academic skills are a little bit rusty and people are nervous about writing essays, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a whole office at Lancaster, Ghana that supports the learning and the academic pursuit of our MBAs. We also have a couple of our modules online, which are the optional modules, which you take online, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail later. You're obviously working with a quadruple accredited management school. So you're dealing with internationally respected tutors who are experts in their field. There's the level of engagement of international study and experience. And again, I'll explain that in a bit more detail. But this is the interesting bit, that because we take the mindful manager philosophy approach and you're engaged in action learning, the work, the assessments that you do are all based on your practice. So let's say finance and accounting. Your question for finance and accounting will be based on an issue in your organization. And if you're an entrepreneur, it might be something that you're grappling with in terms of how you move your company forward financially, how you get a loan, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what you use as your assignment. It might be that if you work in an organization and you're the finance director, the issues you're grappling with, that's what you'll use for your assessment. Same with human resource management or operations management or marketing. Whatever module you're doing, your assessment or the assignment is always a question that allows you to reflect on your practice and reflect on the organization that you work in, which makes it really practical for a lot of the students who come onto the program. Because what they're not looking for, and what most people who come on an MBA are not looking for, is an abstract application of knowledge to a case study, a book case study that they don't really understand and for which they don't have a proper contextual understanding of the organization. And we buttress this practical focus with masterclasses, where we get industry speakers from around Ghana. We've had speakers from banking, from the telcos, from the airline industry, from media, to come and talk to students about issues that are important to the MBA students and the practical application of some of the ideas that they're learning on the program. Now, just to give you an overview of some of the modules that you'll be taking. So the first 8 modules are your bog standard MBA modules, which you will do on most MBAs anywhere. And then we have the elective modules, the specialisms, which are online. So you take the first 8 modules face-to-face every 8 weeks. You come onto the campus Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a part-time program. And after you, well, let me put it this way. The module opens at the beginning. Let's say the module opens on the 1st of September. The first 2 weeks are online, where you're engaging with your fellows and you're doing some online work. Then you come onto campus for a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, face-to-face. We fly the staff in from Lancaster to teach the module face-to-face. Then the next 6 weeks, you're engaged in tutorials and seminars online, and then you hand in your assessment for that particular module, and then the next module starts. Now, by the time you get halfway through the program, you've finished your first 8 modules, and you're on your electives and specialisms. Most of the electives are online, and you'll do them online, but we have one elective, which is the face-to-face International Business in Context module. That's a module where we take students from Lancaster, from Ghana, and from Malaysia, and we take them to a 4th country. And they go and learn how to do business in that country. I'll delve into that in a bit more detail in a second. Now, the online modules, we've got 4 concentrations in leadership, strategy, finance, and healthcare. And in each concentration, you have 3 or 4 modules to choose from. And then finally, by the time you get to the end of your program, you enter the consultancy challenge and extended essay module. On that module, we take students, again, we're looking at the practical dimension of business. And so we put our students into groups, and we find real organizations for them to consult for. So they go into the organization for 2 weeks, they consult for the organization, they write a report and do a presentation. And of course, they write a report and a reflective essay for the institution, for the university as well. And that's where the program ends. So it's a very robust program where we optimize students' learning by them getting new knowledge from faculty and colleagues in the classroom, applying it back into the organizations and testing the learning in real time as they progress through the program. In terms of the electives and the concentrations, what it allows you to do is to choose to specialize or continue to be a generalist. So you can take one module, for example, from leadership, strategy, management, and healthcare. Or you can take all your modules from leadership, as well as the international business module. And because they're delivered online, they allow you to work with virtual teams from the other MBA cohorts, the ones in UK, in Ghana, and in Malaysia. And that makes for a real rich diversity of experience and diversity of knowledge sharing that takes place on the online modules. And then finally, the international module that I talked about, where I said we take students to a fourth country. Over the last few years, the students have been going to Greece, which has been a very interesting place for students to learn about. And when you get there, you have sessions with industry and government speakers. I think the last, not this cohort, but the cohort before, actually spoke to the governor of the Central Bank of Greece, who did a session for them. There are company visits and cultural experiences. And of course, the whole idea, again, is to apply the knowledge that you have. You've learned it, theory from the UK, you live in Ghana, and how does that, or Ghana or Nigeria or Sierra Leone or wherever you come from, China, and how do you apply that knowledge, for example, in Greece? And that, again, increases the practical dimensions and the richness of the information that you're getting and its application. So where do our students come from in terms of sector? I mean, there is a diversity of sectors over the last 5 years that we've been running the MBA. As you can tell, we've got for anything from non-governmental organizations all the way to banking, from food and agriculture, agribusinesses to telecommunications, and so on and so forth. So this is just to show you where our students come from. And also, Lancaster University Ghana generally has students from all over the world. I believe we have students from about 27 countries on campus. On the MBA, we've had students from China, from Lebanon, from India, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Togo, Ivory Coast. I can't remember all of them now, but we've had a range of students. So you will be interacting with students with an international profile, as well as a diversity of sectors. And you can imagine how rich the discussions are when you're somebody from, let's say, you know, one of the big telcos is talking about technology with somebody from an SME and the importance of technology in business. It really makes for rich discussions. The other thing that we do, this is a typical timetable, and this is our provisional timetable for the next academic year, or the next cohort of students. So you do get your timetable well ahead of time, 2 years in advance, actually, because there's a recognition, obviously, that managers who come onto our program are busy people, and therefore need to be able to plan their lives well ahead. So we give you your timetable 2 years ahead, and these dates you see on the right-hand side are the face-to-face sessions that occur. This therefore gives you the opportunity to plan, tell your boss, et cetera, all the 9 Fridays that you're not going to be at work over the next 2 years. So it's a really good way to help you to plan your life and do well on the MBA. Because one of the stresses we've noticed from our students is the tension between being able to do the MBA successfully and stay in work. This slide always, usually, if you were all not muted, this slide, I would probably hear a collective gasp, because when people first see the $28,000, they tend to think, oh my God, $28,000. But it's $28,000 over a 24-month period. And students who apply onto the Ghana cohort get a Ghana cohort discount of $4,000, and that brings it down immediately to $24,000. We only ask for a deposit, and the rest of the money is paid over the 2-year period. And there is a payment plan, which our finance director is on here, and if you have any questions around payment, he can answer that. We know some are self-funded. You can be fully or partly funded by your organization, and there are company discounts available if you want to know anything more about that. I want to just take 1 minute to talk a little bit about the 24,000, because sometimes when people look at the amount, they think, oh, this is too much. But if you think about it, what you're getting is a UK degree. There is no difference between the certificate that you get and the certificate that somebody who does the program in Lancaster gets. Is exactly the same certificate. You are taught by exactly the same people. We fly the staff from Lancaster to teach you. you do not, you are able to stay in your job and continue to study. So you're not losing the salary that you earn, and you don't have to buy, an air ticket. You're not looking at living expenses abroad. You're not looking at accommodation expenses abroad. So for a program that is delivered in Ghana, it is very good value for money. If you did the same program in the UK, you would be paying £24,000. You would have to look at airfare, accommodation, living expenses. You're leaving your family. You are out of a job, so you're not earning. And on top of that, you have to deal with. So what is entry criteria? Our standard criteria, the equivalent one, the upper second class honors degree, plus 5 years work, a minimum of 5 years work experience, and obviously Fisher. Hello? So we are very happy to receive non-standard applications, and these are to apply or talk to one of our admissions teams about your application. Okay, so why the Lancaster EMBA? In conclusion, high skills to operate in a post-COVID-19 environment. It's flexible, block modules, face-to-face delivery, Friday to Sunday, every 6 to 8 weeks. Flexibility, well, and this I forgot to say, you can take the module in, and you're on business in London, for example, you can take the module there. I've already talked about price and cost competitive. You're not dealing with airfare. Importantly, this is an accredited MBA from a top 10. And you also build international contacts with the Lancaster staff, the students, a huge army of Lancaster MBA alumni. So why wouldn't you want to do the MBA? When should you do it? I think you should do it now. Take the leap of faith and join Lancaster EMBA program in Lancaster, Ghana. Now, I've done a lot of talking, but what I want to do next is I want to bring on one of our alumni program. So I'm going to call on Mrs. Linda Owusu-Afriyie, who's going to answer some questions, and the questions are going to appear on your screen, and Linda will answer them as they appear. Linda?
Hi, Prof.
Hi, Linda. So the first question is, why did you choose the Executive MBA at Lancaster, Ghana? Can you hear me, Linda? I think you're muted. Linda, you're muted. Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Cynthia?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Cynthia, for the opportunity. By way of introduction, my name is Linda Owusu-Afriyie. I'm the managing director of Limbrook Company Limited, a logistics and supply chain company. I'm married with 2 children and I live in Tema. I graduated with the first batch of Lancaster EMBA, who joined the program in 2015. Coming back to your question, as an entrepreneur, I'm managing a growing business in a male-dominated industry. The demand for change was everywhere. And as you may be aware, management discipline and leadership skills are required to support and maintain long-term growth. So the EMBA was an obvious choice, but the option for the kind of education I want were mostly in the UK and the US. Unfortunately, because of my business and family, I felt I could not take off a whole year or 2 required to complete a program. It was at this time that Lancaster came to my radar. And I remember seeing the name on one of the university's top 10 rankings. So I was excited about the prospect of attending this institution right here in Ghana. But I wanted to be sure what the program offered in terms of academics, resources, and flexibility. Once I saw it checked all my boxes, I wasted no time in enrolling. Prof. Cynthia.
Yeah. So how did the flexibility of the program benefit you?
Oh, I will say I was able, for me, there were 2 underlining factors. 2 most important to me was time and cost. Because I was able to work and do a lot of other things at the same time. Learning without taking time off was huge benefit to me. It helped also, let's say, in integrating learning with my everyday work and family commitments. Mm-hmm. So those were the benefits to me.
Okay, all right. So, and which element of the program did you benefit from most?
Well, a lot, I would say, Prof. Cynthia, but I would say the leadership model. The leadership model, I would say, had a huge impact in recognizing my leadership style and how to reflect on it as I develop, or let's say a developing process. It also helped me to see the big picture in every decision that I take, be it personal or business. Equally, the masterclass or consultancy challenge was very instrumental in my understanding our local contextual challenges and opportunities, not to talk about the network of colleagues, both locally and then internationally. I say international because there was an option of an optional model that I participated in the UK in Lancaster campus. And I've been able to leverage on that in terms of my work as a logistician. If I need any information as well from Ghana Ports and Harbour, a colleague of mine in Lancaster is there. I just pick a phone. I have one of my colleagues also in Nigeria. Limbrook wanted to extend into the ECOWAS boundary. What we did was that a colleague of mine also in Lancaster, in my cohort, is a lady, Ife. Ife registered Limbrook for us. It saves me time, it saves me money, it saves me extortion from unknown and all that. So it has been benefited me tremendously.
Thank you. And finally, can you give an example of how you've been able to apply your learnings from the MBA at work?
Okay, I would say right from the word go, I was able to identify the various structures needed in my business to set the various strategic goals into action. But in specific application of knowledge acquired from the various Lancaster EMBA models, I would say human resource operations, finance, etc. It's actually enhanced my self-confidence. Mm-hmm. I can again say that the finance model, despite not an accountant, it gave me a better understanding of what the numbers reported from my business and the strategy models taught taught me about the importance of strategic planning. I remember that after Lancaster, I thought I had the best chartered accountant who is helping me with my numbers in my business. But then I realized that he was garbage. So because of Lancaster and the experience I had there, I had to even sack him. So the incremental benefit to me was so much. And all these have helped me position my company to better serve my clients and expand on service offering.
Thank you so much, Linda, for telling us about your experience of the Lancaster MBA. So if you have any questions, I'll hand over back to Henrietta, who will manage and moderate any questions that we've had.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Cynthia. Prof. Cynthia is our Deputy Provost in Lancaster University, Ghana. Earlier on, we have had Linda, who was an MBA student in cohort 1. We had Mr. Daniel Atkins, who is the Transnational Education Group CEO, and then we had our Provost for Lancaster University, who is Mr. Marco McIver. Thank you so much, everybody. Certainly, as Linda said, the Lancaster MBA would definitely assure of a network of students that you would need for your business. If you're growing a business, if you're starting a business, the Lancaster MBA assures you of that. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, as I have said earlier, you can send it to our Q&A, and then we have reps. We have an admissions person who's going to answer our questions on admission-specific questions. We have from Cynthia herself, who's going to answer questions on our EMBA, and then any other questions. Questions that are going to Mr. Daniel Atkins, CEO of Transnational Academic Group, is going to go to his email. We'll definitely make sure that we send emails to you on answers. You can let us know later on as well. We have questions now, and interestingly, we have questions on fees. We have questions from, let me see here. Sorry about that. We have questions from Joshua Magon Mana. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, on what they would do what advice and program of study would you recommend to me looking into my Joshua Morgan. Sorry about that. He studied nursing and he wishes to enroll into LUG. What advice and program of study would you recommend? And I would like Cynthia, since she's the head of the EMBA program, to take this question.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I think that question doesn't relate directly to the MBA. And I think the better way to have your question answered, if you're looking for a program in Lancaster, Ghana at the undergraduate level, I'm assuming, would be to come and talk to some of our admissions staff. We have 7 undergraduate programs running on the campus in business, law, computer science, and in politics. So I would suggest that you come and talk to us about a possible program. If you're looking to register on a postgraduate program, the only postgraduate program we run at the moment is the Executive MBA. So if that's what you're interested in, then please get in touch with our admissions staff.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Cynthia. There's also a question that I would like the finance manager to answer, and this is asking about if there's a payment plan for fees. Mr. Charles, can you answer this question for us?
Yes, definitely. I think Prof. Cynthia has already mentioned it. Our payment plan, the standard one, we usually have 6 installments over the 24-month period. So it's spread out. Let's say for 2020 intake, the first installment of 3,000 is supposed to come in the first week of August, And we have a second installment also in October. And then the last installment is spread over the subsequent 1 year period. But that is the standard payment plan we have. But we also, it's not cast in stone, we are flexible. If there's any arrangement we have to make to suit the individual needs of the prospective candidate, we are available to do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Charles. I have a question on if my company qualifies for a discount. Sorry about that. Mr. Charles, would you like to answer that?
We currently have some companies who have signed up with us on a discount. I don't know the company he's talking of, but all the same, I think, let me see the person. No, so currently we have some companies that actually have some discounted packages with us. I think we can take it up with him and then take the discussions further if his company is interested in doing that as well.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. You need to get in touch with us and then we'll need to know the details for if your company is, normally what happens is that we need to sign an MOU with your company to be able to qualify for these discounts. We have various discounts depending on how far your company is willing to go and how far Lancaster is also willing to go. So we need to get in touch with us. I have a question for Prof. Malcolm that is asking, I have a background in language and linguistics. Do you have any special classes for people who wish to enroll in the EMBA course? If yes, what are they and how is it going to be convenient for me? I have little or no background in the field of business studies. Prof. Malcolm, would you like to take this question for us?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, was that Cynthia?
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Thank you, Cynthia, but please feel free to come in if you can add my answer. We do have a program for people who want to improve their language skills in terms of English, our PPP program. But I didn't quite catch the whole question. Was your question in relation to preparation for the MBA? Could you repeat the question, Henrietta?
Yes, he's saying that he has a background in language and linguistics, and he wants to know if there's any special classes for people who wish to enroll into our EMBA program.
Oh, I see what you mean with there's a bridging program onto the MBA. At this moment in time, we don't have a bridging program as such, but Professor Cynthia might be able to add to that.
Yes, as I said, you don't really, we do take students from non-traditional backgrounds. So if you have a background in language and linguistics, we will, and you have enough work experience. It depends on your work experience. It depends on where you've worked and the level at which you've worked. I would suggest that you get in touch with our admissions team so that we can do an assessment of your eligibility for the program. And you don't need a background in business studies to be able to do the MBA. As I said, we've got doctors, pharmacists, engineers, people from agribusiness and all over the, all different sectors applying to the executive MBA.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Cynthia. I also have a question that is, I believe you'd be the best person to answer this. It says, I have a joint session for learning on enroll process and admission system. What are the costs and scholarship, if any, and learning processes are involved?
Okay, so I think essentially this person is asking about wanting to learn about the enrollment process. So what you will need to do, we've got the contacts on showing on the screen now. I'm hoping that it's still showing and people can see it. I would suggest that you email the admissions team or you go onto the website and look at the application process. It's an online process, and once you fill out the forms and submit the forms with the right documentation, somebody from Lancaster will get in touch with you. But it's always, I think it's much easier for most people if they contact the Ghana admissions team first so that they can guide them through the admissions process. I hope I've answered your question. I think you were asking about the enrollment process and the admission system. Yes. Cost and scholarship is something you're asking about as well. And Charles will answer that, I think.
Yeah, Charles, can you come in, please, on scholarships?
Currently have some scholarship packages. For example, students who actually attended Lancaster have kind of a discount, an inline discount that we give to them, as well as so there are scholarship packages depending on the individual.
Hello, Charles, can you hear us?
Henrietta, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Cynthia. Charles, can you hear us? I'm afraid Charles' internet is probably down.
Okay, so I think what Charles was saying is that we have scholarship packages, and I think you should contact, again, the admissions team for the details on the scholarship packages. But in terms of companies and scholarships or discounts for companies, we provide discounts for companies that give us multiple applicants. And as Charles said, it depends on how many applicants were given. So this, again, is something that we will need to discuss between us and the company to determine. But there are discounts available for any company that gives us multiple applicants.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Prof. Cynthia. I have a question that is, again, coming to you. Wow, it seems like our students are so much interested in the EMBA. It's asking, what is the completion rate for the EMBA program? And can it be taken fully online, or it has to be face-to-face?
Okay, so I'll answer the second part of the question first. So no, it cannot be taken online. It has to be face-to-face. And about 20% of the program is online when you engage, as I said, in the first part of the module, and of course the online modules. But the rest of the program is a face-to-face program. So I'm afraid the answer is no, it can't be done online. The second part of your question was on, sorry, the first part of your question was to do with, and I now can't remember what it was. Henrietta, what was the first part of the question?
It was asking if, so the question was in two parts. It was asking if it could be taken face-to-face, and also what is the completion rate?
Yeah, so the completion rate, I would say, is about 90% of students will finish and get their degrees. And actually, the Ghana students have a very high achievement rate in terms of those who get distinctions and merits. So we do compete very well with the other cohorts around the world, Malaysia and the UK. We have about a 90% completion rate.
Okay, thank you so much. Prof. Cynthia, I'm afraid so much of the questions is coming to you since you are the head of the EMBA program in Lancaster University, Ghana. There's also another question that is asking, how does it rank amongst the Canadian EMBA programs? And then, and this person is considering relocating to Canada, but would really appreciate it if we can give, if we're saying it's better in the UK, they really want to get on board into our program.
I have to say that I don't know very much about the Canadian EMBA programs. And so I cannot answer that question. What I do know, though, is that the Lancaster EMBA program is ranked very highly in the UK, as I've indicated, and very highly in the world. Now, with regard to Canadian programs, you would probably have to check the rankings of the particular program in Canada that you may want to register on, and then sort of map it against where Lancaster sits to be able to answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question that's coming to you, and it's asking, what would be the disadvantage for someone who does not have the 5 years work experience? What if they have about 4 years or 3 years work experience?
For us, it will actually depend on what the experience is. So if you've had 4 years work experience, for example, at very senior management level, you've managed your own resources, you manage your own team, et cetera, we can consider the level of the experience against the length of the experience, if you see what I mean. So it's a balance between that. So if you fall a little under the 5 years work experience, we can still look at it. And I would encourage you to get in touch with the admissions team.
Okay, this question I'm afraid I think has been answered by Prof. Cynthia, which is asking for the work experience. And she has mentioned that if you have below what she had stated, it's something we can look at. There's another question to Prof. Cynthia, and this is asking about what is the total cost. I know you have mentioned that in your slides, but if you can reiterate it to us attendees as well, we would appreciate that. Okay, so the cost, the overall cost is $28,000, but you get a discount if you register in Ghana. If you register on the Ghana MBA, you get $4,000 off. That takes it down to $24,000. Now, we ask for a deposit when you first register on the program, a deposit of about $4,000. And that leaves $20,000 for you to pay in 6 installments, I believe Charles said, 6 installments over the 2-year period. Okay. All right, thank you so much, Prof. Cynthia. Do I have any more questions? So far, there's no other questions, and we're actually 5 minutes behind our time. I'll just give 2 more minutes to anybody who has any questions for us, to any of our panelists. That's Prof. Cynthia, who's the Deputy Provost for Lancaster University, Ghana. We have Dan Atkins, who would answer all questions via email. And then we have Professor Malcolm McIver, who is the Provost for Lancaster University. You have the opportunity to ask any question for our EMBA program. If we don't need the next 2 minutes, then we can end the program. Okay, interestingly, I just got a question that's asking, Prof. Cynthia, of course, this is the reason why we are having this EMBA open session. Prof. Cynthia, we have a question that is asking for, what is the actual schedule to enroll to our EMBA program? If you can answer that, please. What is the schedule? I suppose I'm interpreting that question to mean what's the deadline for application? And if that's not what you mean, then perhaps you might want to ask the question again. But in terms of the deadline for application, we're enrolling, we're admitting students now, and admission closes at the end of July. So by 31st July, we would have closed admissions to the program. So it's important that you apply now, because the induction, as you saw from the schedule that I showed you, induction is in the first week of September. And so we try and close applications by the end of July so that we can process all of them and be ready for induction the first 2 weeks of September. Okay, thanks so much, Prof. Cynthia. Is there any other question that might come? I'm giving 1 more minute. I know I'm way beyond my time. It's supposed to have ended 5:45, but it's 5:52. Just 1 more question, and then would end it. I have a question, Prof. Cynthia, that is saying that I am a Gambian student, and is there any possibility with COVID-19? Yes, so I know this is a question that has been asked by a number of our applicants. So at the moment, the plan is to start in October 2020 and possibly start with some of our modules online.
And if something, goes wrong, then we'll have to have a different plan. But we are starting into October 2020. We are starting our induction as per normal. And if anything, the COVID-19 cases start going up, or as most jurisdictions are planning, then we'll have to go into an online version of the program. So that's currently the plan.
Okay, final question, and I promise this is actually the final one. Prof. Cynthia, this last one that's asking, is there only one intake per year?
Yes, is the simple answer.
Yes,
September.
definitely it is.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, everybody, for making the time to spend with us for the Lancaster University Ghana EMBA program. As Prof. Cynthia said, it's only one intake per year. Would really appreciate it if you are able to send your questions. Unfortunately, we are closing our Q&A section. Send your emails, questions, inquiries. If you want more information, to h.benser1@lancaster.edu.gh. That is my email address. If it's directly about admissions with Lancaster University Ghana, you can send it to admissions@lancaster.edu.gh, which is displayed on your screen right now. Would also have partnership collaboration agreements with corporate organizations. And I am actually directly the person involved with that. So if you want us to collaborate with your organization with regards to our EMBA program, you can send an email to myself. Again, let me mention my email is h.mensa1@lancaster.edu.gh. Thank you so much, Prof. Cynthia, who is the Deputy Provost for Lancaster University Ghana. Thank you so much, Mr. Dan Atkins, who is the TAG, that is Transnational Academic Group CEO. Thank you so much, Mr. McIver, who is the who is the Provost for Lancaster University Ghana. I'm afraid, sorry about that. Who is the Lancaster University Ghana Provost. And then also to Linda, who is the cohort 1 for our EMBA program. She has been amazing. Thanks so much, Linda. If you have any questions, you can send it to us. That is, again, let me mention admissions@lancaster.edu.gh, or to myself if you want us to collaborate with your corporation, your organization, or your corporate organization. That is henrietta.mensa1@lancaster.edu.gh. Thank you so much for the time you spent with us, and we are forever grateful. You'd hear from us with regards to subsequent webinars that are upcoming. And I would say this is a wrap. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.